Our topic for today is erosion. According to the National Geographic Society, erosion is the geological process in which earthen materials are worn away and transported by natural forces such as wind or water. A similar process, weathering, breaks down or dissolves rock but does not involve movement. Erosion is the opposite of deposition. The geological process in which earthen materials are deposited or built up on a landform. Physical erosion describes the process of rocks changing their physical properties without changing their basic chemical composition. Physical erosion often causes rocks to get smaller or smoother. Rocks eroded through physical erosion often form clastic sediments. Clastic sediments are composed of fragments of older rocks that have been transported from their place of origin. Landslides and other forms of mass wasting are associated with physical weathering. These processes causes rocks to dislodge from hillsides and crumble as they tumble down a slope. Plant growth can also contribute to physical erosion in a process called bioerosion. Plants break up earthen materials as they take root and can create cracks and crevices in rocks they encounter. Ice and liquid water can also contribute to physical erosion as their movement forces rocks to crash together or crack apart. Some rocks shatter and crumble, while others are worn away. River rocks are often much smoother than rocks found elsewhere. Erosion by water. Liquid water is the major agent of erosion on Earth. Rain rivers, floods lakes, and the ocean carry away bits of soil and sand and slowly wash away the sediment. Rainfall produces 4 types of soil erosion: splash erosion, sheet erosion, rill erosion, and gully erosion. Splash erosion describes the impact of a falling raindrop, which can scatter tiny soil particles as far as 2 feet. Sheet erosion describes erosion caused by runoff. Rill erosion describes erosion that takes place as runoff develops into discrete streams. Finally, gully erosion is the stage in which soil particles are transported through large channels. Gullies carry water for brief periods of time during rainfall or snowmelt, but appear as small valleys or crevices during dry seasons. Valley erosion is the process in which rushing streams and rivers wear away their banks, creating larger and larger valleys. Look at these examples. Coastal erosion. This is the wearing away of rocks, earth, or sand in the beach. They can change the shape of the entire coastlines. During the process of coastal erosion, waves pound rocks into pebbles, and pebbles into finer sands. Waves and currents sometimes transport sand away from beaches, moving the coastline farther inland. Look at these examples. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, for example, was nearly destroyed by coastal erosion. Many people thought the lighthouse would collapse during a strong storm. The battering force of ocean waves also erodes seaside cliffs. The action of erosion can create an array of coastal landscape features. Erosion by wind. Wind is a powerful agent of erosion. Wind-driven processes constantly transport dust, sand, and ash from one place to another. Wind can sometimes blow sand into towering dunes. Some sand dunes in the Gobi Desert in China, for example, reach more than 400 meters high. That is about 1,300 feet. In dry areas, wind-blown sand can blast against a rock with tremendous force, slowly wearing away the soft rock. It polishes the rock and cliffs until they are smooth, giving the stone desert varnish. Where the wind is responsible are the Arches National Park in the state of Utah. Another example is the White Desert of Egypt. The enormous chalk formations in the White Desert are ventifacts carved by thousands of years of wind roaring through the flat landscape. Some of the most destructive examples of wind erosion are the dust storms that characterize the Dust Bowl of the 1930s in North America. Erosion by ice. Ice, usually in the form of glaciers, can erode the earth and create dramatic landforms. In frigid areas and on some mountain tops, glaciers move slowly downhill and across the land. As they move, they transport everything in their path, tiny grains of sand to huge boulders. Rocks carried by glaciers scrape against the ground below, eroding both the ground and the rocks. In this way, glaciers grind up rocks and scrape away the soil. Several times in Earth history, vast glaciers covered parts of the northern hemisphere. These glacial periods are known as ice ages. Ice age glaciers scored the ground to what are now the Finger Lakes in the state of New York. Today, in places such as Greenland and Antarctica, glaciers continue to erode the earth. Ice sheets there can be more than a mile thick, making it difficult for scientists to measure the speed and patterns of erosion. However, ice sheets do erode remarkably quickly, as much as half a centimeter every year. Erosion and people. Deposition, soils, and sediments. Eroded sediments have profoundly influenced the development of civilizations around the world. Agricultural development is often reliant on the nutrient-rich soils created by the accumulation of eroded earth. Loess is an agriculturally rich sediment made almost entirely eroded sediment. The Yellow River in central China gets its name from the yellow loess blown into and suspended in its water. The fertile lands around the Yellow River have been among China's most productive for thousands of years. Erosion control. Erosion is a natural process, but human activity can make it happen more quickly. Human activity altering the vegetation of an area is perhaps the biggest human factor contributing to erosion. Trees and plants hold soil in place. When people cut down forests or plow up grasses for agriculture and development, the soil is more vulnerable to washing or blowing away. Landslides become more common. Water rushes over exposed soil rather than soaking into it. Global warming, the current period of climate change, is speeding up erosion. The change in climate has been linked to more frequent and severe storms. Storm surges following hurricanes and typhoons can erode kilometers coastline and coastal habitat. These coastal areas are home to residences, businesses, and economically important industries such as fisheries. Erosion control also includes physically changing the landscape. Communities often invest in windbreaks and protect valuable land. Windbreaks, also called hedgerows or shelter belts, are lines of trees and shrubs planted to protect cropland from wind erosion. Riparian buffers describe plants such as trees, shrubs, grasses, and sedges that line the banks of a river. Riparian buffers help contain the river in times of increased stream flow and flooding. Living shorelines are another form of erosion control in wetland areas. They are constructed by placing native plants, stones, sand, even living organisms such as oysters along wetland coasts. These plants help anchor the soil to the area, preventing erosion. Securing the land, living shoreline establish a natural habitat. They protect coastline from powerful storm surges as well as erosion. We will demonstrate erosion in this simple experiment. Our first step is to get a tray and put it into a inclined position like this. Our next step is to use a small shovel. We will get some soil and put it in the upper part of the tray. We will get cubes of ice. We will put 2 cubes of each on both sides of the soil. For the result, we will check on them later on. We will get a cup that has pierced holes on the bottom, and then we will pour water while having it on top on the artificial landform. The process demonstrated splash erosion. Now we will be using an improvised straw that will serve as a blowing instrument. This process, as you can see, demonstrates erosion by wind. Now we will get a glass of water and we will pour on top of the artificial landform. As you can see, water is gushing down, bringing the soil together with it. This demonstrates the process of erosion by water. Now going back to the ice cubes, these cubes represents the glaciers. As you can notice, a portion of the soil went down as the ice melts. This is a long process of erosion by ice. We push the ice cubes down. This in effect demonstrates erosion by gravity. That is all for now. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. This is Alejandro Alcantara reporting for National Geographic Society.